Starship Vigilant, a Star Trek Adventures campaign. Welcome to Star Trek Adventures, everyone. I think this is session 24. I might have to edit
22,
that.
I think. No, 23.
No, it's 21.
Anyway, I can always edit. I can edit it in post. It's fine.
I think it's 23.
In case you haven't noticed, I have started uploading some of the things to YouTube. I've also started uploading some of the old Lanos Kellim ones, Kevin, at the request of Seb. So I've already uploaded 2, I think, from about 2015. Because I've just got them on my Google Drive, so I have started. I've just started uploading them just because he asked me to. So, and I've also started putting Squadron Chatter on there as well. So anyway,
Are you finding it quick? Because I was
using the Mac. It's a lot quicker. It's about an hour now to upload.
Yeah.
And the files are still about a gig, but I've got the process down now, so I know how to use iMovie to edit, stick the picture on. I still did the audio in Audacity just because I know that, but then I just import it into iMovie, and it takes about an hour and 10 minutes to upload a 2.5 hour or 2 hour 15 clip up to YouTube. So it's pretty good. So yeah, I've done a couple this week, but anyway, so yeah, I will try and post these up as we do them. I'll try and post them up within the week, and then I'm still going to try and go back and do older episodes as we go. But anyway, so hello Josh, if you do listen to this, sorry you're not here.
I'm not.
He's
in Japan.
He's in Japan, good point. Right, okay, so I'll just summarise briefly what happened last time. Please feel free to jump in if I miss anything or there's anything you'd like to point out. So, if you remember last time, the Vigilant was assigned to deliver scientific equipment to station Epsilon 19, which is in the Osarin system in the star cluster RJH 1903. This space station has been primarily established to monitor the unusual collapse of the star in that system, which has been determined to be emitting, amongst other things, what was the name of that bloody radiation? I still can't remember what the name of the radiation is. Give me a second. It is called something beginning with a T. Oh, this is great radio. No, I've got to. No, I've got to make sure that I get it right because it is quite important, and I can't believe.
Remember that, everyone. It's quite important.
Triolic radiation. There we go. I'll edit that out. It's fine. Right. So the star is, amongst other things, the star is emitting triolic radiation, which if you remember, you learned is a radiation that is not normally associated with living organisms because it can be harmful, and the only time it was ever used in a technology by a sentient species was the time travelling species from the Next Generation's episode Time's Arrow, and they were an unusual kind of other dimensional life form. So the bottom line is triolic radiation can be harmful to biological life forms, and so it's unusual to see it being emitted in such a fashion. However, the station is not under any danger from that. This is a monitored collapse, and essentially you arrived at the station, and the Vigilant dropped you off. Captain Haranok is not a fan of the base commander, whose name was Commander Johansson, if you remember, and so he essentially sent you lot over to do the diplomatic niceties while he took the Vigilant off to go and deploy sensor drones around the system. So when you arrived on the station, you were invited for dinner with Commander Johansson, and as you remember, the station is very new, so it has although it does have a functioning complement, it's still quite low staff levels. There's science personnel on board, and everything seems shiny and new. So when you went to dinner with Johansson, you remember that you also, when you arrived at the station, you determined that there was a ship in orbit of the base, which turned out to be an Orion civilian vessel. And when you beamed aboard, you discovered that the captain of this ship, who was an Orion woman by the name of...
Anonymosa?
was it Paja Tizhenko?
Was it?
It was Tizhenko, wasn't it? I think we decided she looked like Rebecca Ferguson, but green. And she was accompanied by 2 Nausicaan bodyguards, and she was... Essentially, the commander was fawning all over her at dinner, and essentially she had some story about how her ship had hit an ion storm and had been disabled, but you had your doubts, I think, as to whether that was true. So, while you were having dinner, I remember there was Sergeant Kalish essentially slipped aboard the Orion ship, as I recall. Is that correct? Going to have a little poke about, see what was going on.
Yeah.
And the rest of you were...
And I've just found out.
Yeah, exactly. So as we rejoin the story, so Kalish is on board the Orion ship. Now, can you remember what did we determine that you'd found on the Orion ship? Was there anything unusual, or was it?
I think there was no damage. You didn't.
I think you'd already pretty much determined it didn't have any damage.
There was any damage that matched to what she had said was.
And I think you found it was a small ship, so it had a smallish crew. I mean, there was room for a. There didn't seem to be anything on it, I think, was the gist of the thing. So, but it seemed odd because she'd said it had been damaged. It didn't appear to be damaged. Mm-hmm. However, you also, I think, part of the conversation was that she was also trying to obviously set up maybe trade links, because this base is quite isolated. Mm-hmm. And so it may, I think you decided it may just be that she's just trying to use that as an excuse to get in, to try and pitch, a trade route. And it could be nothing more, it may be nothing more insidious than an opportunistic Orion female using her wiles to get herself a bit of extra cash. I think yes. I think that's fair. I think I don't remember exactly, but I believe you're right. I think essentially Kalish hadn't really found anything, which in itself was unusual. There wasn't anything sinister, but there wasn't anything of anything. It was just like a ship, smallish ship. Nothing you found was suspicious other than the fact that it was not damaged and it was there. Mm-hmm. Does that seem to? Is there anything else anyone wants to bring up that we talked about? Anyone remember anything else? Does that seem to tie in with everyone's remembrance? Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay. So, right. Oh yes. One other thing. You also met the head scientist, whose name was Linar. So that was Linana Mosa. Okay. So she was the chief scientist.
And she just sat down and ate the food. Didn't really give a stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. She was. Yeah. And she essentially said, kind of reinforced everything that you'd learnt about the star. So. Yes, it's very unusual. Trionic radiation, interesting. But so far the collapse of the star, although accelerated, has kind of still fit in with their revised predictions, although it does seem to be increasing. And there, like most scientists, she was very excited about the possibilities for learning. But as Sean said, she was more interested in eating. She obviously probably hadn't eaten for 24 hours because she was kind of shoveling the food down because she's probably been too busy working. So I think that we've sort of got to the end of dinner, and as I say, you'd gone aboard the Orion ship.
Was Kalish scanning the ship for trionic radiation?
She didn't, but you certainly can do. She will have a tricorder.
Yeah.
Why not? Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Okay.
So she'll have a tricorder.
Yep.
Again, in this game, we haven't really talked about this, but my default position is that you have equipment that's reasonable. So obviously Kalish, being a Klingon warrior, she will have a blade, she will have a disruptor, she will have a tricorder, she will have a communicator, she's got body armour. Mm-hmm. All of that goes without saying. Starfleet officers will have generally a phaser of some sort. I think in your case you probably got phaser ones purely because this is a...
Well, I think I was the only one who came over.
I think you came over with your phaser. Maybe the others left theirs behind.
I was the only one who
Which is, you're on a Federation outpost.
Well, there's also Ryan's around.
Well, you didn't, but you'll also have, you've got communicators and, I'm assuming you have tricorders, even if you haven't specified. I'm sure Kevin's probably got his science kit, and obviously Proven Care will have his engineering kit.
His new science kit. His new specimen kit.
His new science kit, specimen kit.
Yeah, exactly. Within reason. If it's reasonable, I'm happy to allow it. I assume that, and again, in this setting, of course, you can replicate. But it's certainly common tools and devices you can replicate. So there's no real reason why you wouldn't have them. Right. So you're on the ship. So I think, as we discussed, the ship was, as you'd expect, it's been parked. It's sort of powered down, but I mean, it's got life support and everything. But it's just essentially in orbit.
Yep.
And so you've had a good look around, and again, small cockpit, a few crew quarters, bunk rooms for the you definitely could tell the Nausicaan one because it definitely smelt like Nausicans.
Yep.
But nothing again, these rooms are pretty cramped, pretty untidy, clothing and that scattered about.
So Kalish would expect an Orion ship to be smuggling. So she doesn't see anything, and that doesn't surprise her. She's expecting there to be hidden stash.
So she has a tricorder. So why don't you make a tricorder? So let's roll for it. So
It's a pity I can't go. You want to look here. You want to look there.
I guess that would be probably an insight and probably science if you have it, or possibly security. Because you've probably got a security tricorder, I would assume, and you're looking for concealment, you're looking for smuggling compartments. So I'd be quite happy to go with a insight and security roll. If you have any relevant focuses, then yeah.
No idea. I'm looking for 12s.
Okay.
One success.
That is perfectly adequate. So, she spends 15-20 minutes kind of scanning the ship. So a couple of things that you learn and you can spend momentum to get more information, but I'll give you some general information.
Yep.
First thing is no sign of any ionic damage.
Okay.
Again, it's usually quite easy to detect. There's usually an ionic build-up in the hull plating. You don't detect anything like that. You'll have seen it, being a spacefaring military person. All ships will have encountered ion storms at some point, so you know what to look for. Mm-hmm. You don't need to be a scientist or an engineer. So that kind of reinforces what we already knew, that's bullshit. Okay, so you've also done a scan of the cargo bay, I'm assuming. So the cargo bay is probably not far off the size of this room, I guess. This ship is quite small. It's bigger than a runabout, but it's a small. Let's be honest, Millennium Falcon-ish. It's a small free trader. And as you say, you rightly suggested, seems a bit odd that there's nothing really in here. There's crates of probably spare parts for the ship. There's some foodstuffs. But when you scan, sure enough, you find some concealed compartments underneath the deck plating. With a bit of fiddling with your tuch, it's quite easy to just kind of pry open these compartments. And you find a few crates of stem bolts, which are a common commodity. It's essentially the equivalent of farming machinery. But these have been concealed away, so she's probably running contraband for somebody. There's nothing on the crates to indicate where they're going. There's no markings. There's no shipping markings. These are just plain crates that they've been sealed, but they've been concealed. So she's definitely up to, kind of in some ways probably makes Kalish feel a bit better because it's kind of what you'd expect.
She's normal behaviour.
Self-sealing stem bolts. Ferenghi's favourite commodity. I mean, essentially they're used in agriculture, they're used in manufacturing, and it's probably that she's, someone's getting a knockdown price. But again, you suspect that again this base has proven to be an opportunistic move on her part, because frankly the ship is quite I wouldn't say dilapidated. I mean, it's a working ship. It has a certain level of functionality, otherwise they'd all be dead. But it's definitely, you can tell she's not making a load of cash.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. Everything looks a bit run down. So
she's probably expecting that this contraband is hidden away because she wants to avoid taxes or something like that, right? It's not kind of like, oh, this is high value goods. It's just she's looking to skim a bit.
It may even be that she simply has a stock of this stuff, and if she happens to come across somebody looking, it's a common commodity.
Entanglements.
Exactly. She's keen to avoid any imperial entanglements. So again, you spend a good half hour just rooting around the ship, because again, there's nobody on the ship because presumably because obviously the base has got transport, so they can transport them back.
Yeah.
And again, it's quite as you'd expect, as I say, run down.
And scanning, there was nothing sort of emitting triolic radiation.
Right. So I'm going to get you to roll again for that.
Yep.
Because that's going to be slightly more difficult.
Same roll as before.
Yeah, same again.
Just a one success.
Right. So you detect something in the. So as you head towards the engineering section, obviously at the back of the ship, because obviously. And again, you're not an engineer, but again, she spent a lot of time on Starship, so she knows the basics. And as you're scanning around, because again, you're probably looking to see whether the engines have been enhanced or anything that would again suggest wrongdoing. And yeah, you think you can detect some triolic radiation, but it must be quite low because you're only barely detecting it.
Yep.
But it seems to be concentrated in the engineering section.
Okay.
You don't really know what to make of that. You're not a scientist, you're not an engineer, but you can obviously your tricorder will record that information. But yeah, you've presumably got it programmed into your tricorder, so it knows what to look for and it can detect something.
Yep.
Certainly not harmful.
Yep.
As we've discussed, the triolic waves they don't have to necessarily not harmful unless in certain concentration. Hence the reason why the station is safe at the distance it's at, because the triolic waves coming out of the star are not at harmful levels. But you think you've detected some, but again, you're not 100% sure because you're not really that au fait with it. But definitely, again, seems to bear out the fact that this stuff's probably being emitted by the star, and the fact that the ship's been in orbit at this base for a few hours, it's probably picked up some of this stuff. But your tricorder records all of that information.
Just as a point of character, because thinking about it, Coalition, I don't think she'd be looking for triolic radiation. So I think she's just going through different frequencies, scanning for contraband sort of stuff.
Fine, yeah.
And because it's new to the briefing, like triolic radiation, that's on her tricorder, so she's just gone through that.
Yeah. Exactly,
exactly. Through that reading, and it's like, that's come up a little bit.
You probably would recognize. Yeah, you probably go. Yeah, it looks like it, but again, like I say, she doesn't know enough. But the thing is, the tricorder records everything it scans, so you can always feed that back.
So they would go through that and double
Exactly.
check.
All of a sudden, there's a very loud bang. There's a loud bang from somewhere within the ship.
Okay.
And the whole ship, or to your perception, the whole ship seems to flip on its side, and she gets thrown across the deck. I want you to make a, I would say probably a fitness and security maybe.
Okay.
Difficulty of 2.
Difficulty of 2. Survival focus come into this.
Yeah, has she got anything like reactions or anything focused sort of martial arts or anything that would be basically anything that would speak towards her reactions, if that makes sense? What about her? Has she got any traits that might be applicable, or talents that might be applicable?
This one is a trait.
A talent.
I should have written down her talents, what they do.
That's okay.
I've got to battle. I've got bold. I don't think either of those.
Okay, that's one. Then go with the focus. What did you say the focus was?
Survival.
Yeah, they go for that. Yeah, because again, she's got good instincts.
Okay. Yes. So it's only 2 successes.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so she is able to avoid slamming into the bulkhead because again, her kind of instincts kick into gear. So essentially, what seems to happen? Essentially, the gravity has shifted. So the ship itself hasn't actually tilted, but to her perception, it seems like the deck has kind of dropped away from under her, and she kind of slams down across the decking, but she manages to kind of roll with the collision, and when she rolls into the bulkhead, she doesn't actually injure herself, but she's kind of in a bit of a crumpled heap.
Okay.
Also, at the same time, all of the lights on the ship, all of the internal lights go off, and red emergency lights come on. So for a second, there's darkness, and also the ship goes deathly quiet, and then the emergency lights kick on, and there's kind of like an emergency generator or something kicks in, because she's in the engineering section, she can hear all this. If she was further away, she wouldn't know it. But right, I'll come back to you in a second.
Okay.
Over on the station, meanwhile, so you guys have had your meal, and Commander Johansson has invited you to have a look at the command deck. He's remained behind because there are a few logistical concerns he needs to talk over with Mr. Jenko, as he puts it. These must be dealt with personally. But one of his junior officers escorts you to the executive turbo lift, which takes you towards the command deck, because the command deck's at the top, if you remember. I think we had a picture of the. Yes, there we go. So there's a picture of the space station. So if you remember I think the residential. So you're somewhere in this section here, which is essentially where the kind of guest quarters and the dining room are. Command deck, as you'd expect, is up on the top. This turbo lift smells lovely. It smells like a new car. It's got, and it says on the doors, it's proudly got this label that says Executive Turbo Shaft 1 or something.
It's still sticky.
How's it going to tell if someone's not an executive?
Oh, I'm sure it's probably got biosensors, but the guy says, this is it's basically this turbo lift goes directly to the command deck. It's like an express elevator to the command deck. So, and this thing's nice and.
Like nothing with the tippy. There's no sample.
No one's peeled. No, they haven't peeled off the cellophane off the control panel because it's got. And as you step in, it's got that smug. It's got the same smug voice as the Excelsior's turbo lift in Star Trek 3.
Yep, yes.
Level, please. Level, please. And he says, command deck. And he says, Commander Johansson will join you.
You say it's still got the bit of.
Yeah, it's all very
like the plastic.
It's all very it's all very shiny.
Out comes the claw.
Yeah, it's like teasing off the edge. And this turbo lift
sort of like.
Where's that laser pointer?
This turbo lift kind of has this really satisfying hum, and you go, "Oh, this is lovely." And as I say, it's got like a kind of a new car smell because it's carpeted and it's all kind of plush. And the turbo lift begins to ascend, and all of a sudden, the turbo lift shakes and the lights go out. And you're not obviously all in this turbo lift car. So we've got Plume. This is weird for you because you're in two places at once. How weird. So you've got Plume. Obviously we've got Science Guy, Helm Guy, Naismith, Osterhagen, Kaz, and also.
What do you touch, Kaz?
I'm assuming the engineer is it. But I think we'll assume Josh is here. We'll work around it.
What did you touch?
What did you touch, Josh?
What did you do?
What did you do?
I touched nothing. The lights go out, and this turbo lift. And somewhere in the distance, you hear what sounds like an explosion. Distant, but it's. You think, shit, that sounds like something's just blown up. Again, similarly to the Orion ship, obviously the lights go off briefly. In your case, the gravity doesn't kick out, but you are all kind of thrown to the ground because the lift literally comes to an emergency stop. You can actually hear the emergency clamps on the lift shaft. Turbo lifts are a bit weird, aren't they? Because they're technically in a vacuum tube, but go with it. You can hear the kind of emergency clamps lock into place, and the whole, presumably the whole station must be shaking because you're in this thing, and you can feel the station vibrating. And again, you hear this explosion, or a loud, followed by a kind of a rumble that kind of goes through the whole station.
Lift open the tricorder to get some light.
Yeah, actually, as you do that, the emergency lights do kick in. You can also tell that you've still got air processor, so you can still hear the sort of hum of the...
Computer report damage.
Nothing. The panel is completely...
Steve,
I thought that was a computer.
are these the same turbo lifts that you get in the ships?
Say again?
Are they the same type of turbo lifts that you get in the ship?
Yeah. Well, hold on a minute. I need all of you in the lift to make either a daring or fitness plus security task.
Oh God.
So it's either daring or fitness plus security.
Either terrible or terrible.
I'll take 10.
Did I mention Plume was probably already sitting there?
What are we doing?
It's under, isn't it? It's fine.
Just tell me what you get.
2 successes.
I got 2 successes.
1 success.
Okay. And
Is there any bonuses?
no, just make a straight roll.
Probably 1, right?
No.
8 lives left.
There's 8 lives left.
I love it.
I do have cat-like reflexes.
Fitness and security.
Have you actually got cat-like
I
reflexes?
Pardon?
Have you actually got cat-like reflexes?
Yes,
Is that your talent?
that's a talent. But
Do you know what the talent does?
give me a second.
So, did anybody get less than 2 successes?
Yes.
So what I need you to do is roll me 3 challenge dice
Yep.
to take some damage, because when the thing comes to a grinding halt, you basically are thrown down harder than the rest.
It doesn't do.
Damage from dropping your chair.
It doesn't do anything that thing. But basically,
What does it say?
during the first round of combat, if you have not acted, you can make a minor.
Okay, so this doesn't affect you. So did you get, what successes did you get?
I got 1.
Right, so you also need to roll 3 challenge dice and tell me what damage you get. Don't count effects, just straight, so you got 2 points of damage. So knock off 2 stress off your stress trap.
1. What's 3?
Wait, did you roll 3?
That's
That's 3. That's 1. Basically, the what you call it counts as...
An effect counts as 1.
yeah. So
1 and 2s count as their actual values. 3s and...
That's 1 and
so
2. It's 2 effects.
So, no, so
no,
that's
so it's 3. So you take 3 stress. So knock off 3 stress off your... No, luckily you didn't. If you'd taken 5, you would have taken an injury, but you're okay. So essentially you're banged up a bit because you've been thrown to the ground, because essentially this turbo lift, obviously as it's come to an immediate halt, then you've been injured just because you've been thrown to the floor. Luckily, again, in the case of the buffeting was less extreme in the case of Kalish.
Yep.
And again, with her kind of combat reflexes, she was able to avoid the worst of it. But
Plume, why are you sitting on the couch?
I was going to say, you're probably quite nimble, but Plume fell on you, I think.
yeah.
Sat.
So I didn't want to worry you, but
Yeah.
I don't want to worry you. But as you kind of recover yourselves, you feel the lift kind of, it drops. It just literally seems to drop about a foot,
Okay.
just enough to make your sort of stomach lurch a little bit. But then you hear the clamps clamp again,
Okay.
and this time the lift is
Sounds
stopped,
like it's
so you're okay.
Yep.
Right, so
I'm trying to work out what is the average gap distance between floors, so I can work out how close we are.
7, 8. Got to be about 7, 8 foot size of the floor.
Yeah.
right, so what do you want to do? So you're in the lift, and
Is there a hatch?
there is a hatch, of
The
course.
computer's not responding.
So the control panel is down,
Use communicators to.
and your communicator doesn't respond. So you try it. And you
Oh,
get-
okay.
So
Look,
I put my hands together and they
engineer, make a hole.
Steve, I'm going to go to the survival kit that's in the bottom of the lift.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Did we say there was a survival kit?
Well, it's in the technical manual.
Why would there be a survival lift in an executive lift?
Possibly not in an executive lift, but the idea is that they can
hold
eject the lift and use them as lifeboats.
Not on this station.
Okay.
So these lift shafts are like the ones in the
contractors.
these ones are like the ones in disaster, i.e. Now turbo lifts originally were meant to be vacuum tubes, but of course we know that they're not a vacuum tube because in disaster.
So in other words, we're going climbing.
Well, the point is you can open the lift. You can open the lift roof. It's not going to.
I'll wait here.
You're not
Bring
going to
back help.
suffocate. And as I say, this lift is a sort of a plusher model, but this is right in the core of the station, so this one isn't going in. This is not a lifeboat.
Okay, I'm gonna
So I'm going to help.
There isn't even funnily enough, there isn't even like a phone, like call security in case of emergency, because to be honest, in this sort of technology level, it's very unusual for there to be no communications or anything at all. As I say, the computer it's not even responding. It's not even gone into a reset mode. It's just the panel's just black. But it is what it is.
Okay,
So
let's open that up.
okay, right. So it's not difficult to open the hatch because it's designed to. In fact, actually, who's probably the tallest? Do you reckon? Probably Naismith. Yeah.
Well, either that or Colette, depending because
Kalish is actually on the Rhine ship, and I'll come
yes,
back to Kalish in a minute.
okay, sorry.
So you can get to the hatch. It's not it's head height. You can basically you'll be able to open the hatch up. As you open the hatch, molten lava falls down. As you debris falls down. Tribbles, oh no! As you open the hatch, and actually what you hear is that you can hear sort of muffled sound of what sound like alarm klaxons, because the computer panel in the lift is completely knackered. Then you can just hear in the distance, and it sounds like there's alarm klaxons going off.
Can I actually hear it? Because again, I've got better hearing.
Yeah, you've got good hearing, so yeah, you can definitely hear.
They're definitely alarm klaxons.
And also, you can tell that the explosion that you, or the loud bang, the rumbling and the bang seems to have come from above you, because you can still hear.
Now, bearing in mind,
kind of noise
bearing
above
in mind,
you.
I've been on a ship that been through a similar thing. My previous ship blew up. Does this set?
Now she tells us.
No. Well. Does it?
PTSD.
Is it similar?
Charlie's out there, man. I can smell him.
Does it sound? Is it sort of that? Is it that? Does the explosion sound like?
Well, what happened on? Tell us what happened on your previous ship for those who don't know.
Well, it was being. The idea is, again, part of my character's background is that she was a previous ship she was serving on. She also had a sibling, and the ship was attacked. Had a sibling. Why do you think she's got a hair short?
I thought she just liked comfortable shoes.
No, that's as part of. Anyway, she lost her sibling. Again, the ship got involved in combat with, I don't know, a Cardassian ship or something like that, and
Kardashians everywhere.
bloody Kardashians. And again, the ship was badly damaged. They had to evacuate. They got out, but the sister didn't make it, or the sibling didn't make it to a lifeboat.
Okay.
So that's why she's got a thing about that she won't leave anybody, doesn't like leaving anybody behind. Starfleet's person. Starfleet's promise that they don't leave anybody behind.
I should also mention that Prugam is fiddling around with the panel.
Yeah.
Being an engineer, because Josh isn't here, we'll kind of give him a bit of a background on. But as you'd expect, he's kind of pulled the panel off, and he said, "Give me a few minutes, I can probably get some power back." And he's kind of rooting around.
The only thing working on the station is a servant.
Let's just hope he doesn't disengage the locking clamp. So that would be bad.
Well, I'm going to peek out to see how far it is to the next.
Right. So as you look up, this is a vertical shaft, vertical turbo. As you know, turbo lifts go sideways, and actually this one.
The artificial gravity was just in here though, so as soon as you open the top, we all go.
Well, the artificial gravity leaks out, and you go flying up the tube. So actually, as described though, this tube is. Seems to only go up and down, because again it's an executive lift, if you like, and it is designed to go from, essentially it's a direct route from the captain's quarters, because you were dining in his mess deck, directly from, so he can get straight from his quarters to the bridge in an emergency. So the idea is this thing doesn't go anywhere, so it's literally, as you look up, it's a circular tube. You can see there are door access points, other levels of emergency access points, not that you can see, and you can see the top of the the top of the shaft is several decks above you. There are emergency lights in this tube, so that you can dimly see. So the tube itself is intact, there's no obvious damage. There's a bit of a haze of sort of smoke at the top of the thing, but this is decks above, and it's not burning, it's just there's been some sort of electrical fire or explosion. And so you can hear the sound of now there is a ladder well. Obviously, there's a recessed ladder well which goes both up and down, because obviously there's always going to be an emergency. So above you is the command deck. Make sure I get this right. So above you you have the command centre and more crew quarters, and then below you've got engineering, science lab, storage, transporters,
because the lift's in
shuttle bays, all that kind of thing.
So no, it's recessed.
Yeah, so you can actually go up or down, because there is like a reset. The ladder well is actually recessed.
It's kind of like here's the type of thing, and it's off to the side. I'm going to climb up. I'm going to tell. I'm climbing up.
Yeah, so it's up to you. Go up or down.
I can tell the engineering to carry on.
Yeah, so he's like, just give me a minute and I'll get this thing working, and he's fiddling around and he's There's
I don't know
obviously
if
still some
anybody- I
power
don't
in
know
the
if any-
system because it's sparking a bit as he's fiddling. But he's like, I can't believe they've made this thing so fragile. And he's poking around inside. So
Well,
what would you
I'm
like to
climbing.
do?
And Plume will say to you, bring back help and something to eat. I'm famished.
Bring back help
Smoke
and
a
something to eat.
Why don't you just carry on smoking one of your cigarettes?
Isn't it? Isn't it
He's just feeling
There's enough smoking. There's enough smoking.
I want to scan, as soon as we make this out, scan up with the tricorder.
Okay, right,
Scans
so
look up his trousers.
insight and science.
12 insight, and science is 12, so exactly.
Okay, so 2 successes. Well, so in a tricorder scan is essentially automatic success. What are you looking for?
Anything, just to see what, if there's any...
So I'm going to give you 2. I'm going to give you 2 momentum because essentially it's a 0 difficulty because it's the tricorder does the work. So stick 2 momentum in the pool. And okay, so
Determination, right?
That's yours.
that's just keep those.
And then
separate.
momentum.
Yeah, we've only got 2.
I mean, it depends really. Tell me what you're looking to find out.
If there's any air leak, if there's any kind of gas leak, if there's anything dangerous up there, just scanning
Other than
for...
me.
Just scanning for
Okay.
what's up there. Just as a general scan to see if there's some kind of radiation, or there's atmospheric leak, or there's structural damage.
Okay.
Or just
As far as you can tell, within the tube itself is intact. There's no. So the tricorder's range is. It isn't quite able to reach the top of the shaft because it's. I mean, these things are only meant to be short range. However, there's no. There's no sign of a pressure leak, which is good. So in other words, the pressure is stable. The atmosphere, if you scan the atmosphere is fine. There's no
what level of
contaminants.
power? Is it emergency power? Just
Yes, you're detecting some emergency power through. So these shafts will have EPS conduits running up and down them because EPS is the power network of the station. So you can detect there is still power in the system. So although something has happened to the power distribution network, there is still energy. And again, systems are on because the emergency lights are on in the tube. You can hear klaxons going off. You've got gravity.
Can I hear any?
You've got oxygen. So life support seems to be functioning.
It's not an EMP, not an unnatural EMP, not a solar flare EMP because we've got power. We haven't been hit by anything because it would sound like more.
Okay, I'm going to give you another point of momentum because EMP is a good shout. So it's definitely not an EMP. So it's not some sort of weapon, for example, which you might expect if it was an electromagnetic pulse.
An overload from the radiation.
Could be something. Yeah, it's
I'm
definitely
not there.
not. It's certainly not. It also seems to be not artificial. If that. So it's not an attack. In other words, the ship hasn't. The base hasn't been attacked.
Did it feel? Yeah. Did it feel like?
Well, it sounded like an explosion, but you can't really tell what that means. It could be anything. It could be decompression. It could
You
be.
say you haven't been attacked, but exterior.
As far as you know,
But it could be sabotage from the inside.
it could be.
So it was. The base didn't move as if it's
I
shuddered
mean,
from
the
a
base
hit.
did move. It shuddered. I mean, it's
But
a big, and this is a big structure. So if something happened. But again, from your scans, to be more clear, as far as you can tell, the station integrity, certainly in this section, is still good. There's no atmosphere leaks. So it's a bit, you're not really clear, but it seems to be safe to, at least if you want to climb up or down, it's probably safe to do so. Okay.
So this is the point where the chief engineer gets the elevator music working again.
And only the elevator.
Yeah.
That's the music of James Larson Jr.
And he's still grumbling in the.
Tonight we bring you a selection of Martin Secundo and his Scintilla Strings.
Actually, at this, so after a couple of minutes of the grumbling, you guys are sort of having a look around to see what's going on. Prugan just kind of throws his toolkit down in sort of dismay and says, "Whoever designed this station should be hauled in front of a court-martial. This tube doesn't have independent power systems. I can't get the car to move. We're going to have to climb." Yeah, and obviously you'd already just realised this, but he's like,
Everyone's already partway up the ladder.
Doesn't have to survive the kit either.
Wouldn't he have his own independent, his own battery kit?
So we've got one tricorder each. So he can.
What do you want to do?
If you want them, yeah, you certainly have got tricorders.
So is it? So I'm speaking engineer. Is it possible to jury rig the 4 of the 5 tricorders to produce enough power to move this thing? Because he's got jury rig.
Okay, that sounds. Do you know what? That's a really
That's an
good
interesting
idea.
idea.
I hadn't even thought about. Why? Why the hell not? You can certainly try it.
4 of them, because we want.
It's going to be difficult because it's. Let's see if I've got his.
My one's already out the thing. I'm taking mine.
So you keep.
Let me just see if I've got
this.
Frugam's
5 of this because he's got one.
character
Oh, wait, you
sheet
wanted-
here.
Oops. Later.
So if I've got his character sheet.
And an energy blast from my from whoever's a stun phaser. Is that going to produce enough energy to get things moving as well?
I mean, the phaser does have a power pack, which you probably could adapt, but again, it would just drain it would probably drain the phaser, but you can certainly do it.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
We could just blast that.
Let's be honest. They've
I'm
done
just
weirder
thinking
things
about
in Star Trek, so I don't have any problem with your reasoning.
Rewrite power from the deflector shields and. Or as like, isn't the running joke that the script basically went, we're going to text the tech
Oh, there we go.
to detect the situation.
What was that?
Essentially, what
We're
we
going
want
to tech the tech
is
to deal with the technical situation.
Yeah.
So the plan is if we can disconnect the magnetic
The flux capacitor,
holder and drop it down maybe a foot, so we can then
bypass the alluvial
we want to
dampener.
open the door of the
Not again.
we want to open the door of the lift to meet up with the door of the next passageway. So we will drop down a couple of feet until that lines up.
You want to try the 2G6 circuit as
So
well.
Okay, so the
we haven't got
first,
enough power to go up, but we've got enough power to open and drop down kind of just enough to open the doors.
so the first thing you're going to need to. So the first thing so you suggest this idea to Prugam, and he's kind of going insane, but it could actually work. Thinks about it. Says, okay.
Do we need to move the whole lift to do that? Can't we just walk up to one of the doors?
Probably the easiest.
You look at Plume, and Plume is not climbing.
I'm not climbing.
No, to be honest with you, if it's an
You can't even reach the
executive lift, it
top.
probably would only have 2 stops.
Don't even try. is it?
Yeah, I mean there are you can see there are emergency doors
Yeah,
because any lift there's going to be
I'm going to go through that.
Door.
even
See how
apparently
they
this
are.
this fat cat luxury lift which is designed, but there are still emergency exits.
I'm just going to make
but probably on every 4th floor or something. There's probably a hatch.
Yeah, because you want to shoot
So
it
how many
down
decks
to
have I got
get
to
the-
climb?
I don't know, it's difficult to tell really. I mean, let's have a look. I'm going to make an eyeball it. Probably what? So this whole top section is probably about 15 decks high. You're probably about halfway up, so you've probably got about 7 or 8 decks to climb to get to the top of the shaft.
So yeah, just
Bearing in mind
tiny bit
each
until we get the
deck is
doors.
about what is a deck? It's about 8 or 10 feet high,
And
let's
then
say.
you've got gap, and yeah.
So it's not massive
I don't
amount.
think,
but it's, you know,
I don't think I'd be climbing all the way up there. I'd most probably climb up to the first hatch, open that,
And like I say,
ready to go.
Because it's that.
you
then
remember,
shut down as
yeah,
well.
you remember from your from looking at the station layouts that you're, as I say, you're in the sort of residential section. So you're like in the middle of this bit here. So this is kind of executive country. So this is where the captain's quarters are, and there's like dining rooms, and this is crew quarters, sick bay, etc.
So it would
Top
make,
level is command deck, which is essentially the bridge, you know.
Stick my head at the top of the lift, look down on the gap and see how far we have to drop so that we line up and then can sit down the doors.
Okay, so you probably have to go down about 2 floors to get to the nearest access hatch.
and how far up is the next hatch?
It's 3, so it's about 5
So we
between.
should
By the time we've rewired everything, we could just.
Yeah, it's up to you. I mean, you can climb it. There is a ladder. You can climb it. I don't. You don't know whether you can get. You don't know
Well,
whether
by
you
the
can get the
time-
door
the
open.
thing is, by the time you guys have gone, well, let's do this, I must probably gone, open the thing up and gone.
See ya.
Wait, like, am I going to have to order you to follow me?
You look back down and the lift goes.
Am I moving faster?
Can't get the
Well,
start.
should we try?
now, can you?
Well, the worst thing we'd all die horribly is shoot out.
What's the worst thing that can happen?
Okay, so what do you want to do?
So roll 2 for
Split
here.
up
for
the
jury.
party.
So what? So what are you going to do the jury rig? Okay, well, hang on. Let's back up a minute then, because the jury. So first thing is how many tricorders are you going to link together?
4.
fine. So
Unless
good
you
news is these devices are
Bluetooth.
no, but they are designed to. They can be
They're made of Lego, so you can just.
Modular.
So he's got Prugan pulls out his engineering kit, which looks a bit like one of these essentially, and he's got like essentially a ribbon cable that can. That's not a ribbon cable, but it's an interface cable that can connect them. So he pulls out a couple of these, and he's like, so it's easy for him to connect them together. But what he has to do is he has to override the tricorder power system to get it to dump all of its power in one burst to give you, because obviously you need to basically. What are you looking at? Weird. Oh, it's funny. The cage. Star Trek joke, love it. Yeah, so he has to basically jury rig it to allow it to dump all of its power into the lift system. So you can roll for him if you, or do you want me to roll for him, or you can roll for him?
I'll roll. I'll just see if there's anything I can do to.
So he's going to use his. He's got a focus of jury rigging.
Yeah, we knew that.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Yeah. So can I? So I'm using my test of theory to get him to do it. So can I assist him with the dice?
You can do that. If you want, yeah. Why the hell not?
I think you only get one.
You'll need to spend your determination point to do that, and that gives you your 2 dice immediately, doesn't it? Do you
Okay.
remember?
So he's got one success. He's got 16 and a 2, and I got 13.
So don't forget.
The 2 will be 2 successes, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so don't forget and also don't forget if you've spent your determination, you immediately get a dice that gets you 2 successes automatically.
4 successes.
3 successes.
No, because that'll be 2, and then your
So that's
determination will give you another 2.
And then he rolled, and so that's 5 successes.
Yeah.
Yeah. 5.
Great. So it was three successes needed. So you get 2 points of momentum. We'll give you 2 momentum back. Okay. So he easily. He makes it probably look a bit more difficult than it really is for him because he's trying to show off a little bit.
So I'm looking at going a bit more. Done.
And he basically links these things together, and he essentially puts an interface into the. He sort of pulls open a panel in the lift. He's like plugs that in, and sure enough, the lights and the turbo car come on, and you can hear it kind of humming. He says, And so what is it you want to actually do?
We're just going to go down 2 feet so we can open the door and step out. And
That's 2 feet, it's 2 floors.
2 floors. Go down 2 floors.
Okay, so the slight difficulty here is he's going to have to. You're going to have to be very coordinated because he's going to have to literally release the brakes.
Bit more.
So he's literally having to loosen the clamp, and the lift sort of drops.
Yeah.
So the first time it does it, you're all kind of whichever
What is going
explosives,
down there?
whichever are you climbing up, or are you standing on the top?
Well, no, I must probably be looking at going, what the hell? Well, I must probably climb down. I must probably climb down or gone back down the ladder. I would have gone back down the ladder to go.
While
I've
they're
opened
doing
the
this.
hatch up, and then like, what are you doing? And then now it's just going.
Because the lift literally goes, boom, it sort of drops about a foot, which is not, and it's fine, it's controlled, but because it's like if you're trying to do anything, on the handbrake, it takes you a minute to get the hang of it, and he kind of, the first go, he goes, whoops, sorry, because it kind of, and you all kind of go, shit, what's going on?
The first time it's done, my cat-like reflexes in, and all of a sudden I'm hanging on to the
Your claws are in the wall, you're going,
I'm on the lift, and it drops.
you're literally hanging on the side of the lift, like, in the carpet, because of course it's got carpeted walls, you're like, next time he does it, it drops a bit more steadily, and then third time it kind of, he glides it down, and actually then, he then kind of says, right, that should do it, and he locks it in place, and he kind of hand cranks the turbo lift door, and sure enough, there's a Jeffrey's tube hatch, which is not, it's not quite lined up, but it's you can open it. So it takes a couple of minutes while he kind of, there's a hand crank, and he's like, and the door's open.
I think Plume would state that it's not quite lined up.
He probably would. It's not bad, but it's not ideal. And so,
Why are you here?
so while he's
One
doing
of you gets hurt.
while he's doing this, the tricorder's discharge. So the lift kind of dies down again. It's still in its emergency state, so the emergency lights are still on, brakes are still on, no problem. But it kind of goes boom because it's drained the power. But he's managed to get the Jeffrey's tube open. So this is it's a kind of a crawling tube. So it's like it's like one of the DS9 Jeffrey's tubes. So it's about sort of half standing height, but it is lit. And again, you can now hear klaxons much more much more clearly from further down the passage.
Is there any
Shut up. Naismith, you coming down, man?
Is there something anything like a system monitoring station?
Yeah.
Well, you'll have to go and look for it. I mean,
Yeah,
this is literally a maintenance
crawler.
crawlway.
Yeah, but surely there'd be some sort of display.
Again, you'll have to go and look.
Yeah, okay.
So there's nothing in sight.
We'll
It's,
open the Jeffries tube, climb into it, and Naismith's climbed into his or come down. He's waiting for us to the other side.
right. Okay. So you're gonna.
Does the Jeffries tube link up the one that they plumbed into?
It will. Yeah. I mean, presumably, as with all Jeffries tubes, it will link into other. And to be honest, if you go once you get in a bit, you'll be able to get into a corridor because it's.
Yeah, but it's a whole thing of we're 5 floors apart from each other now. That's the problem now.
So hang on a minute, I'm confused. I thought you would come back down.
No, I started climbing back down, and then saw this thing. There's like, what are you guys? I'm kind of like, I've got the hatch open, and all of a sudden, see the
Right, okay.
drop.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's good.
Ah!
Okay, so let's first of all, I'm going to go back to the ship. So you've got the lift down. Naismith has got into a hatch anyway, so you've managed to get into a Jeffries tube.
Yeah.
Several floors up, no problem.
Okay.
And exactly the same with these guys. So the tube it's lit. You've got oxygen. There's no problem with that. The pressure's fine. The gravity's fine.
Oh, we've got.
You can hear klaxons. So you'll have to basically climb into the Jeffries tube a bit to get to a corridor access port. Same with you guys. But that's good. So you've done that. So you're sort of starting to crawl down the Jeffries tube, looking for a way into one of the ship's corridors. Okay. So back on the ship. So. Kalish picks herself up off the floor. Mm-hmm. You realise that the ship hasn't tipped over, but it's just simply the gravity shifted.
Yep.
So the ship is level, but again, you can hear this kind of really ugly sounding klaxon going off. It's not like a Starfleet where it's like, it's really quite annoying.
Yeah.
But again,
but slightly better than the Klingon one.
Slightly better, yeah. So what would you like to do? So you're in the engineering section.
Yeah, she would try her communicator.
Okay.
Obviously,
Nothing.
no response. I think she would head towards the command to see if she can.
Okay. The good thing with this ship is it's quite simple. You've got the engines at one end, the flight deck at the front.
Yeah.
Fine. So she heads off, and again, there's stuff sort of scattered about the cargo deck. So you come out of the engine room into the cargo deck, and there's literally whatever crates were in there are kind of chucked all around the place. There's a nasty smell coming from somewhere. You suspect there's some form of tobacco or something. Well, there's probably some sort of tobacco or something. It smells very acrid. You're not quite sure what it is. It's not anything harmful particularly, but it just smells nasty because some crates obviously cracked open.
Yeah.
But again, in this room, the emergency lights are on, and again there's like going off, but no sign of any problem.
Okay.
And you continue to move forward.
Yep.
So back on the station, Naismith, you've come into your crawlway. So you kind of go, what are those idiots
Where are
doing?
you going?
I went down to the other one.
So they've all gone down the other way. So
Yeah.
Great. Rule number 1: do not split the party.
I think we'll find you
That's
for
okay.
the party. We stay together.
So you basically kind of bloody hell, kind of crawl off,
Yeah.
and after about 40 yards, you come to what you know is a wall access into a corridor. So you can open that and climb into a corridor. So you push the hatch open and sort of jump down into the corridor, and yeah, it's pretty much what you'd expect. So it's dark. The emergency lights are on, but there's like klaxons going off. No signs of anybody about, but then as we discovered before, the station's quite empty. So
Yeah, I was going to say, how many people are on the ship?
on the base, I think we established
Coming on
there
the base.
was about a dozen scientists, probably about 20 odd Starfleet crew.
So about
They were still filling things. Of course, we've got the Orions. We established there was about 5 of them, wasn't there? There was there was her, there was the 2 Nausicaans, and then there was 2 other crewmen, I think.
Because I would have scanned over stuff, what would have the life life forms is the crew mostly made up of?
It's mostly human.
Okay.
And you know that from your briefing of the station. It's mostly humans.
Okay. So I'm going to set it up to scan I'm going to set my tricorder to the tricorder and kind of do the scan for human.
Okay.
And
You don't need to make a roll for it because
difference
it's one of the
just
tricorder's default settings. First scan, no signs of any life signs. You can You can't detect them. There are a few decks below you, but you know they're.
I'm not actively looking for anyone. Basically, what I'm doing is kind of like, if I come near anyone, the thing's going to beep, and it's like, if it's a human, it's like it goes red. If it's not human, it goes blue or something like that. That's essentially what I want to do, and then head off, try and make my way up to the command deck because that's where we were supposed to be going.
So you're going to head for the command deck.
Yeah, that's also where the explosion came from.
Okay, so as you walk down the corridor, you know ships, you know engineer, but it's pretty clear that the main power systems are out. Mm-hmm. So you've got emergency power, you've got lighting, but if you go to a turbo lift shaft, because obviously there are other turbo lift shafts, but all the turbo lift shafts are shut down. So you go to the nearest, you sort of walk for a few yards, and you come to a turbo lift. Sort of press the summon button to call the lift, and nothing happens. It just says.
I mean, in that case, I might as well head back to where I came from and climb the rest.
Yeah, you can use Jeffrey's tubes to get through anywhere on the station. You just have to. Yeah. You might have to go out of your way a bit to get there, but all the Jeffrey's tubes will have vertical shafts as well as horizontal. Mm-hmm. So looking around, you're in a quarters deck. So as you're looking around, it's quite obvious that there's a lot of these doors don't have any names on them. One or two of them have got crewman, third class, Jones. So these will be crew quarters. But if you sort of try any of the doors, there's no signs of any habitation, and a lot of the doors don't have anything on them suggesting they're not occupied. No. And again, as you're looking around, you don't see anybody else. The corridor's empty. And you can easily get back to the Jeffrey's tube. The hatch is still open where you opened it, and you can get back in and start heading upwards. Cool. You guys, so you're 2 or 3 decks below, and essentially same experience. So Jeffrey's tube, crawl along. After about 50 yards, you come to a hatch, which obviously leads you out into a corridor. So do you want to go through there, or do you want to carry on through the Jeffrey's tube?
So we would be essentially trying to aim the command module.
So you're also going to try and get to the command.
That's fine. We'll be going to the same place. So we just kind of get out into the corridor to determine where we are.
Right. So with Johansson, was he with us?
No, he'd stayed behind in the mess hall. With the Orion. Well, you suspect he was basically chatting up the Orion, but he'd stayed with her. Yep. So it was his sort of junior officer who sort of put you in the lift and sent you off up to the
command. How are we going to get upstairs?
No, there are gangways. So the easiest way is to use the Jeffrey's tubes, because the Jeffrey's tubes are maintenance, so they kind of run. Every deck has Jeffrey's tubes. So as I say, there's vertical shafts which have got ladders in. There's horizontal. So bottom line is, if you find a Jeffrey's tube and you go up, eventually you'll get to the top deck, because.
Yes, essentially. Climb up.
But there will also be gangways. Again, I haven't got deck plans for this station, but again, just because you don't see them in the shows, there are also lifts. There's also stairwells and.
It's just a matter of interest. Is there any
ladders?
Is there any other turbo lifts on this?
Yeah, that's what I said. He went to a turbo lift station, but it was shut down because the main power's offline.
Is it worth getting out into the corridor, see if we can find someone, see what's going on, or should we just go straight up to command?
Well, you're going to have
to go very well
command. I can't imagine anyone's going to know what's going on.
Well, so. Command, okay.
It's up to you.
Yeah, simply flying then.
Now, so Prugam, he suggests that he would like to try and go down to engineering, because presumably engineering will be where somebody will need to get main power back online. So it's up to you what you want to do. Do you want him to let him go off and do that, or do you want him to keep him with you?
Yeah. Otherwise, we're going to just use the jury again. Yeah.
Our comm badge is still working.
No. Because the comm badges tie into the base network.
We're hanging the flat.
Linked into the Wi-Fi on the.
Getting to charge them. So next time we see them, we'll bring charged flat tricorders back up. Yeah. So they're good to it. So we'll carry them down. To be honest, you can probably. It won't take you too long to find other tricorders, because there'll be.
Is there a communication system on? Because obviously there might be.
Yeah, you can try it, but again, main power's offline, so.
Yeah, but surely there'll be.
You can try it. So, okay, yeah. So you go to a comm. There are comm panels around.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you want to do?
I said, Lieutenant Katz to anybody on the station. Can you hear me?
Yeah, okay, static. So there is power there, but no one's answering. So either there's no one to answer, or no one's hearing you. But
so
At which point do the zombies come in? I can't remember.
Well, there's the alien, so there's no Easter eggs or anything around
Can't
it.
hear anyone. There's no. It's just,
No, the station's quite quiet. I mean, again, as we covered
Can I
last
hear
time,
anything?
there aren't actually that many people on this. This is a big station, and at this point, it's only just getting started. So there's basically a skeleton crew plus scientists. So at the moment, you're on the habitation. So you're also on. You're also in the sort of living space. So you probably have to go to the science labs to find scientists, or to the command deck to find Starfleet people, or engineering. Because where you are basically is where people will be. You know, that's their quarters. And although there might be one or two people who weren't on duty, weren't on duty at the time. Again, given that this base is running on a very, very limited complement.
so no sprinklers as well, I think either.
Oh Christ, I hope we haven't shifted dimensions.
What's that? Oh, that would be awkward, wouldn't it?
So no sprinklers as well, so there hasn't no fire.
What's that?
There hasn't no fire, so no sprinklers. as well.
Again,
They'd be localised if there was a fire.
Yeah.
It'd be,
to be honest, and also Starfleet technology would use force fields to extinguish a fire.
yeah, they'd cut the oxygen.
So again, there might be fires, but
If there's no power, how could there be force field?
because it'd be an
Beyond the
emergency system, because you've obviously got emergency power because you have got.
Is there a protocol for something like this?
What
What would people normally do?
Well, the thing is, you're not really saying, okay, so on the Vigilant, if there was a situation like this, then obviously you've got engineering staff who would be trying to, so that, what is the problem, essentially, is the first thing to determine. So you're probably not far off to go for the command deck to find out what's going on, because the problem is you haven't got access to any localised computer system, so you can't get a damage report from the station to see what's going on.
Yes.
You have to assume that, because there are engineering personnel, there weren't many, but there was a couple of engineering people, so you have to assume that whoever's in engineering is trying to get main power back on.
But the emergency power should run diagnostic computers, I think.
Yeah, and again, but it all depends on how badly, you don't know how badly the computer system's been damaged. Again, at the moment, all you know is that you've got life support, you've got emergency power, so you've got gravity, you've got light, but communications seem to be down, turbo lift networks are down, but that's all standard practice in an emergency. It's just like nowadays, if you're in a skyscraper, if there's a fire, they turn off the lifts because they don't want people in lift shafts, and so the same with turbo lifts, they just turn them off.
They ground them.
So it could also be that there are people trapped in lift cars, you don't know, but again, probably your two best options are head for command deck or head for engineering, because that'll be the two places where most of the work will be going on to find out what's happening.
The command deck.
So there you go.
The damage came from up there. The bone came from above rather than below, so just keep going.
That was, it certainly seemed to come from above.
Just keep going up.
Right, meanwhile, Kalicia's managed to get to the flight deck.
Yep. Okay.
So things are a little bit worrying on the flight deck. So the ship is, the ship is still orbiting the station.
Okay.
But as you sort of
Drifting up into this.
no, the ship is still in a parking orbit, so gravity will keep it in place. But as you sort of peer out at the station, the station is definitely, it's like dark. So there are a few external lights, but because of course you haven't had any communication with these guys, but you know immediately something is wrong because the station, it just looks wrong because it's not all, previously it was all lit up with running lights, and there's like habitation lights and all this. Where's that picture again? I just like looking at that picture. So for example, you can see where you've got visible lighting from the habitation ring. Mm-hmm. So a lot of those windows are dark. There's a few ones that are showing a bit of red, presumably from emergency lights.
Yeah.
The hangar deck is also dark.
Yeah.
And these lower sections, again, everything's sort of dark or it's red, so it definitely looks...
Got that pulsating sort of
How much power you got on that ship? Is it on emergency power?
Yeah.
It's communications operator.
My car wasn't, but that's why I went to...
use the ship's thing, trying to kill
Yeah,
it.
okay,
That's
so
exactly why I went to
exactly. So, right, so you've got to the flight deck, and as I say, your situation is not critical because the ship is intact. Mm-hmm. You're still in orbit of the base, but so your first thought is, shit, that something's gone on over there because the base is dark.
Yep.
So what would you like to do? So you're on the flight deck. So
Yep.
this is like a cockpit. It's not a bridge. You've literally got two flight
Panels.
control
Yep.
panels, and there's a small captain's chair. Well, there's a chair behind, which has got panels next to it, which is presumably her chair. But
So,
would you like to do?
two things. First of all, I'd like to try communication with the ship using ship-to-ship communication.
Okay, so you have a quick look at the command, the consoles again. You know, you're an experienced Starship. It's turned off again. I think you're right. It must be 10 minutes or something. It's weird. So you're an experienced officer. So you take a minute to look at it and you go, "That's the operations panel. So that's where the communications will be." So if you want to go to the panel and sure, hit the communications, you can identify the communications panel. So what do you want to do? Who do you want to hail? Or?
So I want to try and raise any communication with the base.
Okay.
I'd ideally like to start with Naismith to see if I can get him on his personal comms.
Fine. So you can just hail him and say, you know, this Kalish hailing Kalish to Commander Naismith. Do you read me? Right. Your comm badge actually goes off.
No, I was not expecting that. I was just going through the motions, but I was not expecting it.
It's like, wait, what?
Yeah, so your comm badge chirps at you.
Okay, anchor myself on the stairwell. Well, no,
You're in a
I'm
jetfish tube, so you're fine, yeah.
Okay, tap on, like,
Right,
next
so you open communication. So basically the ship, because the communicators basically run off the better communication system. So this ship has obviously got an emergency, its communications are running on emergency power.
Yep.
But because you've hailed him, it can actually establish a link to his comm badge.
Okay.
So that tells you two things. One, the ship's got good emergency power reserves. Two, there isn't any interference. So, I don't know, radiation, clouds or anything that's preventing communications getting through. So, right, fine, you can speak to him.
Naismith, this is Kalish. I've run into a problem. I seem to have lost power on this ship. The emergency power is still here, but I need you to teleport me back across.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, the space. I don't know if you've noticed, but the space station's also lost power. I'm currently making my way to command deck to see what can be done. I don't know where the others are because they did something to the teleport, the turbo lift. So I'm not entirely sure where they are right now. Maybe you can try to communicate with them and tell them to meet me on the command deck.
Will do.
I mean, as soon as we're able to figure out how to, as soon as I can, I'll try to transport you over. Otherwise, and see if there's anything.
Yeah, you're probably better off where you are, to be honest.
I don't know. Get out of the bush.
Okay, so you can also hail the others. It's exactly the same.
Yep. Can Naismith now hail me? Is he able to use his comms to get back in contact with me?
No, you have to hail him.
Okay.
You have to be there because you have to be the dominant.
I would say.
Yeah, so I'm going to say that I'm going to check in with you every so often.
Yeah, every half hour.
Perfect. Yeah. So what that also tells you is that your comm badge power cells are still functioning, but there's no carrier signal. There's no. Yeah. Essentially, there's no Wi-Fi for it to connect to. Yeah.
He is out in this area.
Right. Okay.
So I'll contact the others. I'll say that I spoke to Smith. He said to meet them.
Exactly the same. So whoever you decide to talk to.
But when you scan the area, what damage did you find for the space station in your ship?
One thing at a time.
That
So
was
you
going
can-
to be my next.
Standard Starfleet protocol is to, but never mind. We obviously don't do that. Please scan the area to see what's going
Can you
on.
contact the ship?
I wouldn't contact Osterhagen. Contact
The doctor.
I think.
I think you should contact the doctor.
possibly
I want to
the
see him have a conversation with himself.
Yeah, that would be meta, wouldn't it? That's a bit meta. Let's do that. Yeah. Yeah, it's up to you. Yeah, I mean, you can. Who do you want to hail?
Plume, my information. Are you sitting down?
As always.
Yeah, so I'm Kaz, I guess.
Okay. I said, well, I'll fill him in with the situation and tell him we're heading for the bridge.
Okay.
Tell her we're heading for the bridge.
Yep.
Also, I said, you contacted the ship. Have you heard anything from the Vigil?
I have not tried yet. I contacted you, and they'll be the next people I
Yeah,
contact.
get them here.
Yeah, how far away were they?
They're in the system
They're in
somewhere.
the system. So
Assuming
Because
that,
they were dropping the.
Dropping sensor buoys.
yeah,
assuming
the
they
torpedoes,
hit whatever
or
hit
the
us.
torpedoes or something off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, it's only been
A couple of hours.
Yeah, not even that since this has happened. So they probably are. They may very well be aware, but it will take them a while to get back. So
yeah, okay. So again, I would say that I'll check in again in a little bit, and tell you that Naismith said to meet on the
Cool.
And then I will try the Vigilant. Can I get hold of the Vigilant?
Okay, so you try and hold the Vigilant. You get nothing. Get no response.
Okay.
But you get static. So you suspect that it's just either that or your communication system doesn't have enough power to reach them.
Yeah.
Again, you will have had a check-in protocol. So sooner or later they will realise that you're not answering, so they will know something's wrong, even if they haven't already detected a problem.
Yeah.
But again, it could be anything from an hour to 3 or 4 hours before they reappear. You just don't know. But again, that in itself is anything to worry about. Particularly, you just suspect that there's not enough power to reach them. So,
yeah.
What inconvenience related?
Well, that's always one of the problems with these with this game is you've got to think of a way to get all the nice toys out of the way a little bit, because otherwise, fine, just beam everybody back, no problem. And that's one other reason why I'm glad we're not on a Galaxy class ship, because it'd be like, let's just send 75 crew to deal with that, shall we? Let's just get our engineering staff to fix it, all 300 of them,
Right.
So,
and then I would, I guess, try to diagnose any damage to the ship I'm on.
Right, do you want to make a sensor scan? So, are you going to scan? What are you going to scan first then? Do you want to run a diagnostic on the ship?
On the ship that I'm on, yeah.
Do you want to do that?
So I'm going to use control. Is that right?
So I would use control and probably science or engineering, whichever is better.
Ship 8.
So I'm looking for 11s.
As your scan to the ship 8.
Say again?
To the ship 8.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. Yeah, get the ship to roll. So I'm going to go with. Hang on a minute. I don't know if they've got stats for the ship here.
Yeah, rolled off crooked dice. Rolled off there.
Give me one sec. Let's just say target number of 11 for the ship. So somebody just roll one dice. If you get under an 11, you get a success.
Anybody else?
So the ship doesn't help you then.
Okay.
How many successes?
Have to tell me how many you get.
One.
Cool. Okay. So you initiate a low-level diagnostic.
Yep.
Again, this Orion ship, although it's a bit basic, it still has basic features. So as you start running this diagnostic, so like the emergency power is enough to generate, to bring up the displays, and as you see sort of, warning lights over the ship. But the good news is, so life support is functioning. So that includes gravity, heat, obviously oxygen circulation. So that's all fine. You've probably got about 4 hours of power, although the life support will last longer because there's emergency power. So there's like an emergency reserve for life support.
Yeah.
And also the ship is not small, so even if the air processors stop, you've still got probably hours of I know I'm not trying to make it sound too dodgy, but the fact is, even if it's not pumping oxygen round, you're not in a shuttlecraft, you're in a big ship. Even though it's not a massive ship, it's still got a lot of volume. Mm-hmm. So you're probably going to be all right for the next day or so.
Yep.
But obviously, as power runs out, then heat will start to run out, and then eventually you're going to freeze to death or suffocate. But that's 24 hours in the future. So at the moment, you're in reasonably good shape.
Okay.
The problem definitely seems to have originated in engineering, however. So there's definitely something going on in the. So you need to probably check the engine room.
So this isn't a problem that can be solved by resetting. It's I'm going to have to physically go.
All you can tell is that all the problems seem to lead back to the engine room.
Yep.
You're not an engineer,
yep.
to be fair. But again, the diagnostic is saying so. Like the command systems are okay, they just haven't got any power. Navigation systems are okay, they haven't got any power. Shields are okay, haven't got any power. Weapons are okay, haven't got any power. Mm-hmm. So everything leads back to the fact that it's the power generation that's the problem.
Okay.
There's no sign of any external damage. So as you did a scan before, so nothing's hit the ship. You haven't been fired upon. You haven't had an explosion. So all of that is good news. It just means that for some reason the engines aren't doing their thing. So you probably need to look at that to get. But again, you've got, like I say, best estimate, you've probably got 24 hours, maybe 36 hours before you suffocate, which is, hey, good news. But you're in reasonably good shape, and as I say, you've certainly got enough power to run the communicators for a few hours.
If you're around killing other crew on the ship, you're eating more.
There's also the point that the ship might have a spacesuit.
There's that, and I mean, you don't know whether it's got a shot. It might have like an escape pod, for example. You don't know.
Spacewalk to get to us.
I'm sorry, Dave. I can't do that. Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
Okay, so before you go back over to everyone else, can I use communicators anywhere else apart from on the bridge of the ship? Like, if I were in engineering, can I communicate back to these guys?
No, I'd say you probably have to use the. Okay, you can make a roll to route it. Yeah, because again, you're not technical. But if you make make an insight and engineering roll.
Okay.
Say difficulty of 2, so you might want to think about some momentum if you want to.
Computer help, because obviously you're going to
work. You can. No, you can. The ship can roll to help as well because you're using the computer system.
Okay, I will use it
this time.
So same again, Kevin. 11 or less.
Momentum for another dice.
Okay.
Yeah.
1. Brilliant. 2 successes then. There you go.
Oh, nice.
Let me see.
Assuming you get 1 success on your rolls.
I've already got
2. These are all successes.
Brilliant. So that's 5 successes. Holy shit. Okay, well done.
Holy shit.
Right, so difficulty was 2.
So that's what I spent. So
you'll get 3 back. So take 3 back. Great, good job. Yeah. So you kind of you can easily route it. So what you do is you basically route in the main engineering control panel into the communication system. Mm-hmm. Easy to do if you had power, but because you had to basically do a little bit of messing around to get power down to that system. But yeah, you can easily communicate from engineering or the bridge, wherever you are.
Okay. And before I head to engineering, I wanted to scan the station to see if the problems are very similar.
Okay, so make a,
spend that.
Science and...
We got 7.
Okay.
Yeah, science and... either insight or control and science.
Okay, control and science,
Can the computer study...
you can use the 11 again for the sensors, helping.
I've got 2.
That's okay.
Let me see what I want.
2? Great, fine. Right, so you do a scan of the station. So pretty much as you thought, that the main power network is down. Mm-hmm. So you detect emergency power, so that's all good. Life support. And again, engineering seems to be the cause of the issue. So again, power generation is the problem. So again, the base has, structurally. Now you notice there is some damage at the top of the command deck. There seems to be some structural damage there. You're not sure the extent of it, but you might want to let them know about that.
Totally. Yes, I will relay the information.
However, it does still have atmosphere as far as you can tell.
Yep.
But the rest of the station seems to be intact. So again, no signs of any damage, no battle damage, no attack. The only thing you can tell really is that, as I say, it's got emergency power. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the life support on that station that size, it's less of an issue because again, even if the power stays off, the emergency power will last for probably 24 hours. Okay. Actually, no, I stand corrected. Sorry, emergency power will last for about 10 hours.
Yep.
At current usage levels on the station. After that, again, same scenario, but again, it will take a while because, of course, again, it's a big station, big volume. The biggest problem you're going to have on the station probably is the temperature rather than the oxygen, because once the heat goes off, then the cold it'll start getting cold very quickly. But again, you're still looking at 12 hours, 13 hours away.
Okay.
So in some ways, you're better off because the ship's got less of a volume. But again, things that no immediate danger. However, engineering seems to be where again all the problems lead back to the power generation.
Okay.
So I'll assume you communicate that. There is one other thing as well. You also detect that the levels of trionic radiation have increased. And on that note, everybody take 1 stress off, please. And you will all lose 1 stress every hour. because the triolic radiation has increased. Now you feed that back to the others, presumably.
Yep.
So we'll come back to Dr. Plume in a minute because he might be able to do something to help you with that.
Yep.
But that's not good because again, triolic radiation is nasty. So with the current level of exposure, every hour you'll lose a stress. So obviously, I don't know what sort of stress have you got, Mike, for example?
12.
Right, so 12 hours you'll be dead, essentially. Triolic radiation will kill you.
So I took three to start with.
Yeah. So you got a total of 12, so then you'll be down to 9. So 9 hours then.
No, I've just taken another one, so I'm down to...
Okay, so 8 hours.
Yeah.
So if assuming that the radiation exposure, but as I say, Dr. Plume may be able to help. So
But that's only one of your lives, right?
yeah, that's fine. What are we talking about? You got 8 more, so you're fine. You got like about 56, so I don't know what you're worried about.
Plume's not as bad as that.
Plot armour.
But anyway,
am I marking against with the ones that got ticked or the empty boxes?
The empty boxes.
Okay.
So how many empty boxes have you got?
I've got 10.
Cool. So everyone, I think, bottom line is you've probably all got, you've probably got within about 12 hours it's going to get nasty. But
dead in 9.
fair enough.
Oh.
So we're saying the triolic radiation is coming from the engineering section of your ship?
You don't know, but everyone, you've noticed that the station is taking the level of radiation that's hitting the station has increased. Put it that way. Mm-hmm. Now, actually, on the ship, that don't knock off so don't knock off one for Kalish.
Okay.
Kalish doesn't seem to be affected.
Right. Okay.
Make of that what you will. Okay.
She cling on.
Right. Okay.
Maybe it's because of where she is.
So
Inside the Klingon body.
So you let presumably you let them know what the situation is.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Right. So go back to Plume. So Plume reckons that if he can get to a medical bay or a science lab or sick bay,
Yep.
He can probably come up with some sort of an inoculation to at least ward off some of the effects.
So I did state last session that I was going to take with me some stuff for radiation sickness.
You did indeed. Okay, fine. In that case, I want you to make a control and medicine task for Plume.
Yeah, you did.
They're in my tricorder. Where? It's been cracked.
Oh shit! I left it in the lift.
Sorry, it was medical and
So it's control plus medicine.
Oh, lovely.
Difficulty of 2.
17.
Have you got any?
You might want to spend some momentum on this.
Okay. All right. I'll spend 1 for another dice.
Okay.
I'm going to use emergency medicine as a focus.
Yep, that's absolutely totally appropriate.
I need lower than 17. Ooh. Okay. So
You call
1
yourself
success.
a doctor.
Unless you want to roll, unless you want to
18
buy a re-roll.
I would like to buy a reroll.
Go for it.
You may as
So you can
well.
re-roll the dice that didn't do
I'm
well.
cocky then, so that's lower than a 17. Well, there's an 18 and 19 for you.
That's better.
So
And that's
that's
within
going to
your-
give me 2. There's another one, and there's another one.
How many successes did you
4
get?
successes.
Okay. So you get 2 momentum back.
Beautiful.
Back up to
Right, so
16.
you basically, as if by magic, you whip out your anti-radiation kit
Yep.
that you had the good foresight to bring with you. So those of you in the group here, you can restore your all your stress goes back to maximum.
Or go back to maximum.
Yeah. So put your stress back to maximum. So what that meant. So although you will still continue to take stress damage every hour, the point is you've actually restored them back to full.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you've kind of inoculated them, which
Naismith
gives.
isn't with us,
Correct.
and I think Josh went elsewhere as well.
Correct.
It's just the 3 of us.
The bad news for Josh, if he's listening, is that in engineering he's going to be losing stress every half an hour. But we'll worry about that. Yeah, we won't worry
You should
about
be
that.
sitting there, Plume.
You've sent him to his death. Right, okay, so. But the good news is for now you've kind of inoculated, and you've got, once you get back to Naismith, you can inoculate him as well.
Yeah.
Because again,
Run out.
you've made up this potion, so that'll do the job.
Yes.
Right, so who's heading? So who was heading for the control deck?
All of us.
All of us.
But
Eventually.
Okay, so as you get near it, so you basically come out into the after having climbed up a couple of decks, And as you've gone up, you've noticed it's got warmer.
Of course.
So you kind of think, oh, that seems a bit. It definitely seems to be getting a bit warmer.
Fire, either that or there's some heat exchange not going properly.
And basically, when you get to the command level, the Jeffrey's tube opens out into there's like a big corridor that circles the whole deck. Command, and actually, if it was in other circumstances, this would be really pretty because this level's got big windows all the way around the upper level.
It's got big cracks all around it.
New. And the command deck basically sits in the middle of this section, and to make things convenient, you wait because you know these guys are coming.
Right, commando.
So a couple of minutes. It's up to you. Would you want to wait, or do you want to go ahead?
Well, I would.
I imagine you're waiting around the corner to go. Boom!
Yeah. Let me go!
Because they're only a couple of minutes behind you. Because again, they're heading up the lift shaft. Certainly. But it's up to you. Do you want to go ahead?
I'll wait. No, actually, what I'll do is I'll climb down and then come up behind them. No, okay. I'll just wait for them.
Right. So you know, again, because Kalish has communicated, you know they're coming. So they, after a few minutes, they sort of come huffing and puffing out of a Jeffrey's tube, looking at all looking a bit sweaty for the climbing, but looking okay. So presumably, the first thing that Plume will do is inoculate you, so you can put your stress back to normal. That includes any damage you took earlier on, so just wipe all that out, so you're back to normal. And you basically give him a kind of an update of what's happening as far as you know. Obviously, Kalish reported to you about the structural damage on the top of the station, I'm assuming, and has also given you the report about the triolic radiation, so you know essentially what's going on. You guys also tell him that Care has headed down for engineering because he figures that's where he can be the most use. Poor old Care, he was so brave. Never mind, we only barely knew him, but never mind.
Never got a chance to rise up to his true potential. That's a terrible short joke. As
you come to the command deck, and basically this big door that says command deck. You know, I think,
hand on the thing.
Yeah, you'll have to hand crank it.
No, but also hand on the door.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Lick fingers.
No, it's okay. There's no. I know exactly what you're doing, but there's no. Again, and you can use a tricorder, but there's definitely been the room has definitely taken some sort of taken damage.
Okay.
There's definitely there's a bit of a smell of smoke, but again, your tricorder it is safe. The tricorder will tell you it is safe to open the door. So you can actually open the door. Okay, it is safe. Open the door. So you open the door, and as you open the door, you definitely get a bit of a waft of heat. It's not too intense, but it's warm enough. And as you look into the command deck, the whole command deck is essentially like a ruin. It's been. It looks like sorry.
Is there any crew here?
Well, as you begin as you look around, there are people. There are dead bodies, and what seems to have happened again. In the interest of saving a bit of time, basically what seems to have happened is that there's been a feedback loop. So essentially power is shunted up into the systems, and the whole thing's like blown out. So although the structural integrity is intact, so the base, so the hull hasn't been punctured, but this it's a bit like Apollo 1. This place would have gone up in.
The consoles exploded.
Yeah, the whole thing just went.
So Plume is checking for life signs.
Right, so Plume sort of runs around, but yeah, they're all dead essentially. I mean, it takes you a few minutes to go around, and there's people buried under. There's literally bits of console have fallen on them. There's burn damage, and what seems to have happened is that the fire suppression systems kicked in, and as you say, the force fields would have like extinguished the flames, but most of it was concussion damage or falling debris. And essentially, the thing the deck is. It's a shame because it was all very pretty earlier on. And there's about 6 people. There's 6 people up here, which kind of tallies with what you saw when you were up here before. They were obviously just on duty, and like I say, they obviously would have been taken completely by surprise. But there's nothing you can do for any of them. They're all dead, unfortunately. And there's also not much you can do in terms of base control from here, because again, most of the panels are trashed, and it would probably take a fair bit of time to get any control back. Again, good news is that the station is sort of, its integrity is still there, but probably engineering's probably be down to Kerr to try and get control of systems from down below, because this room is totaled.
I think I'd wait for depending on when the next check-in is going to, the arranged check-in is going to be with Kulesh, I'll get her to, one, tell Kerr about the radiation, two, find out how bad if he's there yet, how bad the situation is. And
actually, has anybody got? So you and Kalisha have agreed a schedule of reporting.
Yeah.
So she's going to check in a few minutes. Have any of you got reason and engineering of a reasonable level?
two, reason and
13.
12.
Yeah, fine. Have a go.
12.
So you'll be able to tell us basically. I can give you a bit more information about what happened.
I've got
One success.
I'll give it a go.
One success.
Yeah. Somebody else want to have a go?
Two successes.
Brilliant.
There's investigation applied. No,
Let's assume that you assisted. So you two have sort of scanned. While Plume is trying to, is basically going around looking to see if he can do anything for these people. Then you two are scanning to see if you can determine what happened. And it appears that the EPS conduits in the command centre exploded, which caused concussion damage, structural damage, and also plasma fires, that's what caused the burn injuries. When you examine the bodies, you recognise plasma fire, so what it looks like is that there's been a big feedback from the station's reactors that have caused the explosion, and as we thought, feedback loop has built up in the system. These EPS conduits have blown out, sending consoles and debris flying into the room, plus fire which has been extinguished. So as I say, the situation pretty much as we thought, and the situation is stable, but this room is not going to be controlling anything for a while. So, and there isn't unfortunately anything you can do for the dead either. They're long dead. So you can have a look around, see if there's anything usable. But again, most of it seems to have been burnt.
No, I think the idea would be to find out what can be done about engineering, especially with radiation levels being that high down there.
So when Polish contacts us again,
And also where the commander is.
yeah,
Well, as far as you know, he's probably still down below.
we'll get Kalish to contact.
Don't tell them where you're coming from.
Surely the ship would have her on speed dial, the communication contact.
No, you don't want to be contacting her, but the thing
By
of
the way,
tapping.
I'm on board your ship. So if Kalish is checking in every half hour with you, every time we talk, Josh will take damage.
Essentially, yeah, that's
So
right.
we got to think about that.
No, well, that's the other thing.
That's a
is
good
to kind
point.
of go
Actually,
by
I'm
and say,
going to actually knock off.
to say, by the way, you need to get out of there.
Could Kalish set up communications so that they could speak to one another?
Why not? Yeah, we can have a go.
If it's relayed
To
through
be honest, what
through
you
the
could
ship,
probably do is you could talk to
Rather than pass messages
Osterhagen and get
between them.
Osterhagen to tell you what. Because again,
Yeah.
although you're, again in this setting, everybody's a bit technical.
Yeah.
But Osterhagen can probably say, look, okay, go here, do this, do that.
Well, a quicker compromise. You did a really good roll on that other thing. If we sacrifice one or two of the
Successes.
the successes, the bonuses that we got,
Yeah.
then we can have
Absolutely,
some
yeah.
automatic.
Well, in fact, you can spend momentum to create
Yeah,
an
the momentum,
advantage,
that's the word.
right?
So yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I was trying to think.
So why don't you use it to? Yeah. Why don't
Yes.
we? Why don't you? That's exactly right. So I was going to suggest that you can use that to set up.
Create advantage.
Why don't you use it to set up? Let's say communications link. If you make it successful, so let's say it's difficulty 2.
Okay.
And then that will allow you to use the. So let's say that it will knock off an hour of the emergency power from the ship.
Okay. Yeah.
However, you will then be able to set up a stable communications link between all of 3 parties.
So could you assist?
Yeah.
I'm thinking on Josh's behalf at the moment.
Yeah.
Nice.
He's a chief engineer. He'd be an engineering.
He's on his. Well, the chief engineer would. Yeah, you assume.
He's on the way down to engineering.
What did we say? We said engineering
it's
control.
like typical engineering. Surely they would have radiation.
I got one as well. And
down there. All I'm saying is that would be the first thing he would go and look.
May very well be.
Once we've
that's a good thought.
him,
Yep.
and hopefully that will protect him against.
Because you'll need to warn him about the trial radiation.
As I say, once we got through to him.
How'd you get on?
3 successes.
Brilliant.
Computer got 2, you roll 1.
Right, so you get one momentum back.
Cool.
So make a note of the advantage communications link or communications relay. So there's an advantage in play. So as long as the Orion ship is still functioning, then all of your parties can talk through the communicators. So you, Kalish, obviously can communicate with the individual groups, but the individual groups can also communicate. So that's what you wanted to do, right? You wanted to achieve that.
Yeah.
So you're able to then hail. So Plume, I'm guessing, will hail Prugam Care and say, be warned. The Trilec radio. So as Mike's just suggested, and that's a good point. That it says when you get to engineering, I recommend you find a radiation suit because Starfleet engineering sections, like in Wrath of Khan, they have those like white suits. Mm-hmm. So because he'll know to look for it, so make it a priority to get into a radiation suit because the Trilec radiation seems to be worse down there. But once we meet up, we can give you an inoculation, but just be cautious. So he reports back and says he's about 2 decks above engineering. He's had to sort of fight his way down through Jeffrey's tubes. He's a bit chunkier than the rest of you lot, isn't he? The being a Tellarite. So, but he's probably about 10 minutes away from engineering. So he said he'll report in when he gets to engineering. Cool. So is there anything else you lot want to do? So the command deck is basically a write-off.
So we can.
So there are a few other things you can look at if you're interested. So obviously you've got science labs, which are on the way down. If you assuming you're probably all going to head for engineering at some point, science labs are further down the station. Also, you've got there's a transporter room. You've got shuttle bay.
I want to swing by the captain's, the commander's quarters.
Okay.
I think we should stop there.
Could we also send somebody out in the shuttle to have a look at the top of the bench?
Well, you can certainly head down to the shuttle bay. You don't know what state the shuttles are going to be in, but you can go check them out.
I'll go and check the shuttles.
Well, yeah. We do the
because I'm flight rated, so.
Yep.
Well,
Fine. So
we're all going to head in that direction anyway because the shuttle bay is
this
down.
is the shuttle base here. Yeah.
Down here, so we all might as well work our way down here.
Yeah.
And then split up when we get to the commander's level.
You can actually make a bit better speed going down because there are obviously, as I've said before, there are stairwells, there are Jeffrey's tubes, but obviously...
What about those boots from
Rocket
Voyage
boots.
Home?
Deck 75.
The
gravity boots.
The gravity
boots.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to let you have gravity boots because that would just be silly.
I'll probably missed this, but the consoles on the bridge were completely...
Yeah, the whole thing was, like I said, there was the EPS conduits blew out.
Yeah.
Essentially, because all of these panels have EPS conduits, there was like a feedback loop that just...
Definitely accidental damage.
Sorry?
Definitely accidental damage, doesn't look deliberate at all.
It doesn't seem... I mean, it certainly doesn't look... Yeah, it's certainly not an attack.
It's a consequence of the feedback.
But some things happened, yeah. There's an engineering feedback. The reactors... It's like some sort of feedback from the power system from the reactor, and that's what's blown out the EPS conduits.
Faulty stem bolts.
Maybe stem bolts are what you need to fix it. See, all along she knew what was going on.
Or did she? Did she know?
Well,
bum, bum, bum.
Who knows? Right, so situation as it stands at the moment then is so Josh is or Prugam is
glowing in the dark.
Getting close to engineering, glowing in the dark more and more every minute. You lot are all heading down, so you're on the ship. So Kalish is on the ship, and your situation is relatively good. Although you haven't got inoculation, you're not actually. Your scan of the Trilec radiation is much less severe.
Yep.
So actually, this seems to suggest that the Trilec radiation is coming from the station rather than from the star or from, as in. Let me just clarify that. So although there is still the Trilec radiation from the star,
yes,
this particular situation
high concentration
is coming from the station. So you're not being affected, although your ship is showing some signs of it, but you're not affected. So you're not in any danger from that. So that's good.
Okay.
So hang on a minute.
So you're able to coordinate, because at the moment you can't beam back. You haven't got transporters or anything, but you can still...
So I'm trying to fix stuff in my engineering.
Yeah.
So I'm bugging Prudent Care
That's fine.
He was trying to get on with his stuff, and I'm
He's-
saying, so what do I do
So
now?
he's been talking to you as you've been, because he's still heading down.
Yeah, cool.
Because essentially this station is, it's quite a big thing. So it's taking him a while to get there. But you've probably been going well. So, and he's giving you some ideas of how you can like run diagnostics. So you can be getting on with that.
Can I ask a question here? You're getting trial radiation from your engines.
Which one? Kolish.
Kolish.
Very low level.
Very low level.
Very low level, but you're definitely getting something from.
Correct.
And they're also.
But not enough levels because that ship's engines are smaller.
But what I'm saying is that it's funny that it's both engines.
Isn't it funny?
Isn't it funny? What if it's out of character? So well, dilithium crystals or something. He's saying, I don't know. Yeah. So,
Mike, I'm going to give you an extra momentum for that. Because so essentially,
what if something in
the one of the key things to understand is that the trial radiation is coming from the engines of the ships. Mm-hmm. So that's something to bear that in mind.
Okay.
Makes it even more imperative now that we contact the Vigilant. Yeah. Remember, her engines are even more powerful than.
No, they bugged out. They were like, "No, stuff that. We're off."
Yeah.
Nobody could have survived that explosion. We're getting out of here.
They couldn't. It's relevant at this.
You haven't destroyed
Don't worry.
the Vigilant.
No, of course not. Not yet. Don't worry. You know that they're going to turn up just as you fixed everything.
What's your name? Dark Kevin.
Believe me, I have thought about it, but I like the Vigilant too much.
What, are you calling yourself Dark Kevin?
Dark Kevin.
I have thought.
I think we should all call ourselves Dark Kevin, to be fair.
You can have Dark Kevin, Light Kevin, Grey Kevin,
Rainbow Kevin.
Rainbow Kevin.
Ooh. Right, cool. Okay, so about 10 minutes, 15 minutes later, you lot are all heading down. So who's going? So who wanted to go to the? Was anyone going to the science labs?
Yes.
Okay, so you arrive at the science labs, and
Aren't they below where we were?
no, they are. They're
the bits that hang out.
they're sort of round. this area.
But basically means we're all going to be heading to. No, what I'm saying is we're all
we're all
going to get to the command deck before we carry on.
Well, you went to the command deck, and then you were heading
What I
down.
mean is the commander's deck.
Gotcha. Okay, fine. Yeah,
Because
you're
I
right.
think we'd all be there before we.
So, are you all going to go to the mess hall?
I'd assume it would be the quickest way straight down would be together.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also, Plume, after seeing these people injured, he wants to make sure that.
Okay, so you basically end up back at where you started from, back on the command deck.
So were you just wondering the levels?
To a degree.
Conditions.
Like he's scanning for life signs as he goes.
So the conditions here are very much the same as the rest of the station. So emergency lighting. As you go into the, so as you walk down the corridor, you find, you see that up ahead of you, you see a form collapsed on the deck, and it's the essentially it's the adjutant who was the guy who put you in the lift. Yeah. So does Plume want to examine him?
Yeah, of course.
So give me I guess reason and medicine, or control and medicine, whatever you prefer.
Control.
Okay, go for that. He's an expert, so he knows what he's doing. Obviously, you've got focus, you've got emergency medicine focus, right? So that applies.
Indeed. 3 successes.
Cool. So you only need 1. So how many momentum have you got in the pot at the moment?
Too much.
Okay. So you would have. So you generate momentum, but because you're over, you've got 6. You've got 6 or 7 there, have you?
6 there.
So you can't get any more momentum. So fine. So he's actually alive. Sorry.
I say, can we spend more momentum to
Spend it immediately.
have the guy that's collapsed have a working tricorder?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Create an advantage. Yeah, do that.
Yeah. Or create opportunity.
Advantage. My tricorder is working. Yeah. So he's concussed. But he's not in any immediate danger, so you're able to stabilise him. So what looks like has happened is he's basically bounced off the walls.
Cool. Yeah.
When the thing's gone off, when the station has been affected. So he's not critical, but he's unconscious, but he's not in any immediate danger.
Okay. And
so you can give him a booster, give him a shot of the inoculation.
Yep.
And you sort of bandage him up. I mean, you kind of treat him, and you can move him to a. Because this deck is all kind of lounges, and so basically you probably just quickly move him into one of the lounges, pop him on a sofa or whatever.
Position.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, he's not in any immediate danger, but he's unconscious. But he will need further medical attention, but at the moment it's like triage.
Yep.
So he's not in any immediate danger. You can stabilise him, make him safe.
Yep.
And then also you retrieve his tricorder, which is working. Okay, so then you carry on and you get to the mess hall, and interestingly, Commander Johansson is on the floor, and he doesn't look so good because one of the big display in because if you remember they had the big essentially plasma screen display in the mess hall has also exploded. So do you want to go and examine him?
Indeed.
This is just him in here.
Yes. There's no sign of either the Nausicaans or the Orion female, Paja Tajenko.
So one success and a complication.
Okay, yes, he's actually in worse shape. So the complication is that his so you scan him. Unfortunately, his injury. He's also got a head injury and he's got burn injuries, and he's in a lot worse state. So you can patch him up temporarily, but he's going to need medical care quicker. So whereas the other guy will be fine, he's going to probably be unconscious until the Vigilant arrives. This guy's in a bit more trouble. So you may need to go to sickbay, possibly to get either take him to sickbay or get some supplies from sickbay.
Okay.
Because you can't really patch him up as well as you need to here.
Yep.
Unfortunately, you also determined that his biochemistry is resistant to the anti-radiation medication.
Okay.
So you inoculate him, but then you realise that he's also going to have problems with the trialite radiation because something in his biochemistry just doesn't like this inoculation.
Yep.
So essentially, his situation is pretty bad.
Okay.
Again, he's got a few hours. The head injury and the burns are probably more of a life-threatening situation. But again, you're good enough that you can do a bit of emergency medicine to keep him alive for now. But you realise you're probably going to have to get him to sickbay.
What's Josh's character called again?
Prugam Care.
Prugam, when you come back up, bring an extra radiation suit and give him the location.
Good. Yeah, great idea. Okay, so understood. He says, I'll be in engineering in 2 minutes.
Grab a second one for options.
So you do a quick, if you want, you do a quick sweep of the executive level, for the want of a better word, and you don't find anybody else. So these two guys, like I say, you probably move Johansson for the moment into the same lounge as the other guy.
So there's no sign of the Orions?
Not at the moment, no.
Cool.
Oh yeah. What's this? Group of lawless teens. Holy shit. Another animated Star Trek series is coming.
New animated Star Trek series on Nickelodeon will follow a group of lawless teens, inverted commas. Guy who was involved with Troll Hunters and the Lego film, the Lego movie.
Group of lawless teens who discover a derelict
Star
Starfleet
Trek
ship
Lower Decks
and use it to search for adventure, meaning and salvation. Oh, cool. Because we've got Lower Decks coming, haven't we? Which is their sort of workplace comedy animated series. We've got, yeah.
It's not to be confused with that one. So yeah.
This is another one.
Yeah.
Awesome! Happy day! Oh, happy day! Right. So, I'm sorry. What were you saying? You were saying about no, never mind. We've discovered the two people on the deck. Haven't found anybody else. You've called down to.
How far are we from the shuttle decks?
Right. Well, you're working your way down. So you've stopped off.
We're over there.
Yeah.
We need to get over there.
Ah, right. Okay. That's upside down. Steve's been showing me the way around.
Okay. Sorry.
That's it.
We're over
That's
there.
classy now.
So we're actually close to
A little bit further.
We go the wrong way. Back,
However long it took us to get from there to there, a little bit longer than that.
Right. Okay. So you get down to the. So essentially, you carry on down. What do you want to do about medical situation then? Because again, your sick bay is back up again.
Yeah, that's where
It's really a judgment call as to whether it's really what you want to do. So you can either focus on trying to get main power back on with everybody else, because again, you really
that's
need to
not
get
his
into
speciality. His speciality is medicine, so he's going to take him to medical.
Okay. So you might have to lug him up to the. What you might be able to do if you go down to the shuttle deck, here's a thought: you might be able to get a cargo sled.
Yep.
Like essentially like a like an anti-grav.
Given that we've got nowadays, we've got defibrillators everywhere.
Yeah.
Are they going to have an
shuttle,
area of defibrillator?
The shuttlecraft should have medical
gurney.
Yes, that's actually a good point. The shuttlecraft will have a medical kit as well.
Okay.
Have survivors.
The shuttlecraft will have
on each floor.
Yeah, there'll be emergency. It'll be like there will be emergency medical stations, but you realise that you really need to get him to a proper medical facility. And of course, the danger is if there isn't any power, that might be a problem.
We get a shuttle.
But he's going to need probably surgery probably within sort of 5 or 6 hours.
What type of shuttlecraft are they?
They're standard type 7.
Would they have the emergency beam out for
They have transport.
Because
that type of
get them to
shuttlecraft does have
there, then we can beam straight to.
So if we pop a bit of
where we need to
power
get
on
to.
and use it as a makeshift,
You can do that. Yeah.
pop it power on, we use it as a makeshift gurney, and we just carry him.
All of a sudden, this is turned into a completely different movie, isn't it? No, that's a good idea.
This is Poseidon, the skyscraper or something like. It's more like skyscraper than Poseidon.
No, that's a good idea.
As long as it's not towering inferno.
Basically, the shuttle decks are a lot closer than medical, because medical is probably 5 decks above.
Yep.
The shuttle bay is literally 2 decks below.
Yep.
So, as Mike says, the shuttlecraft will have medical kits.
Yep.
Probably not enough, but it'd be good to equip yourself with some more stuff.
Yep.
You can definitely get a cargo pallet, like a one of those anti-grav sort of wheelbarrow things. So if you do need to lug him up 4 decks, it'd be better to use that.
If we get the emergency transport.
And if the transporters are working in the shuttle, or even because of course the transporter bay is also on that deck.
Cool.
So that's probably a good idea to get him down there first, and then you can decide what you're going to do.
Carry him.
Okay, so it takes you about 10 minutes to you kind of jury rig some sort of a stretcher affair.
You get part of a large panel.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and there's no problem at all. The other guy, so the adjutant, he's fine. You can leave him where he is. He's not going anywhere.
You don't carry him.
Yeah, but he's not in any danger. But it's Johansson who's badly off. Right, so as your head, you sort of get moving again. So then your communicator goes off, and you have Prugam Care comes onto the communicator, and you can hear sort of sound of klaxons and radiation alarm warnings.
You pushed that wrong button, didn't you?
Yeah, he's opened up the airing cupboard, and he's right. So he reports in. So he tells you basically that he's found the chief engineer and one of the other engineers dead from apparent explosions, and that some of the panels have been burning from EPS, but that ties in with what you know. And he says that the automatic fire suppression has stopped worse than the fire, but he's managed to basically he managed to turn off the plasma fire. There was an EPS conduit had like a plasma jet coming out of it. He's managed to turn that off, and he said he reckons he can get partial power back probably within the next sort of 15-20 minutes. So he said he's going to work on that, and he'll contact you once he's got power back on. He says he has found a radiation suit. There are radiation suit lockers, so if you need more suits, you can get them. So he's got himself in a radiation suit, and that you can hear his voice is a bit filtered because he's got a headpiece on as well.
If he prioritises getting the med bay up first.
Yeah, okay. You can tell him that. Good idea. So he says, "Okay, so one problem at a time," and he goes off and starts working on that. So he reckons about 15 minutes he can get.
Holographic doctors.
Say again.
Are we too early for holographic?
No. I don't know. Probably a little bit.
I think we established that we've got one on Vigilant.
Yeah, because
it's very basic.
Yeah.
No, because Voyager was 2371.
Yeah, but was the same. It's the first ship to have them.
Yeah. So, but I reckon this base will probably have a EMH.
But it'd be a bit EMH1.
Yeah.
Not the second one.
So it'd be the annoying one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's probably fair. But again, it all depends on power. So that you can get power back.
Medical bay and medical doctor for assistance.
No, perfect. So he says, yeah, okay, yes, all right, I'm working on it. Right, so you start then chugging down to engineering with your guy, and you've got him on a makeshift gurney. Sorry, to the shuttle bays. Right, okay, so just coming up to 10, so we'll do one more thing and then we'll wrap it up if that's all right. Okay, so you've reached the shuttle bay deck, and essentially there's a central core here, Oh, actually, sorry, the science bays are first. So did you want to go to the science labs?
For ease of all I was going to do was try and reboot a console and see if we can get the communications via.
Okay, but you've already got communications.
Yeah. No, sorry, scans.
Okay, so let's just put it. We'll just quickly skim over that bit. So,
Yeah.
on your way down, again, you've gone down through the stairwells. When you get to the science bay, you find actually most of the science personnel are actually okay. They're basically in one of the labs, kind of holed up, trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah. Right, tell them to get to medical bay and assist all injuries immediately.
Right, so they're okay. So the woman that you spoke to before, she's there, and her team are all sort of alive. You could do a quick. Plume does a quick tricorder scan of them, and they all seem to be. They've got a few bumps and bruises, but nobody's actually badly injured.
Yeah.
So you recommend they probably want to head for sick bay.
Are they still got the radiation?
Probably not, because these little pods you said were quite isolated.
Yes,
right?
that's right.
For doing experiments and stuff.
So they're actually you're right. They're actually probably maybe better off staying in there because they're actually shielded.
Mm-hmm. And they've got radiation suits in there.
Yeah, they probably will have some, but again, because these were designed to be these sections are actually designed to be able to be detached in the case if their experiments go wrong. Not so much their experiments, but this type of station is designed so they can isolate them.
So if they've got radiation suits,
those guys will be okay. So probably the best advice to them is to stay put.
Yeah, but they've got radiation suits. They're going to help any casualties in the rest of the ship.
Yeah, that's fine. So you basically will fob them off, but essentially they're okay. You give them some stuff to do, and they go about it. So you get down to the hangar deck level, and in the middle, you've got the transporter rooms. There's 2 transporter rooms. So you come to this central corridor, and as you come around the corner, where the transporter rooms are, you see the 2 Nausicans standing at the doorway to one of the transporter rooms. And as they see you come around the corner, they literally go and they actually shoot at you. And you're kind of like, what the shit are you doing? So they
my phaser.
They shoot very badly, and you suspect they were probably just warning you off. But they basically kind of go and shoot at you as you walk around the corner. So what do you want to do?
Tell it to hold off and tell Kerr to hold off on bringing the power online until we tell him to bring the power online.
Well, you can probably tell him to not. Do you want to talk to them first, or
no?
Shut down the transport.
No, basically, I want to make it that even if, because obviously they're trying to get to transport off the space station, but if there's no power, they can't transport.
You can tell Kerr to basically bypass the isolate the transporters.
until we.
He's like, great, one more thing to do. All right, don't bother me.
And tell Cleach that there's the potential
that might have visitors.
visitors.
They ain't going anywhere at the moment.
Has she restored enough power to her ship to put shields up?
Her ship.
Yes. Yeah. So you've been talking to Kerr.
Yeah.
So you've managed to basically kick in an auxiliary reactor. So you can actually raise low-level shields, which will probably That's perfect. No, that's perfectly fine. That's good. You can do that. So they're kind of holed up in this transporter room. They're like they sort of curse something at you in Nausicaan, which you probably don't understand.
No, I'm just gonna go.
But you get
throw down your weapons. Like you're on a Starfleet vessel, a Starfleet space station. Like stand down, or we will.
Scuffle your ship.
You're the only one with.
Don't say that. The other good news as well, if you get down to the shuttle bay level, there's weapon lockers, and because obviously there's away team equipment, so you can probably retrieve other weapons if you need them.
Inform them we have their ship.
Okay,
and
so
I'm not going to tell them that. I'm just going to leave that as.
So the Nausicans are kind of popping shots off at you.
Well, if they don't stand up, I'm going to. Take aim and shoot.
So hold on a minute. So before you do, as you're getting ready to shoot at them, you hear the kind of sultry voice of Tizhenko calls out over you. She sort of says something in Nausicaan to the 2 of them, who kind of reluctantly put their weapons down. They don't drop them, but they lower them, and they're kind of watching you.
I'm telling them, put your weapons away.
Why should I take orders from you? You Starfleet types have tried to kill us. Is this what you call hospitality? What on earth's going on? He said, I want to get back to my ship and get out of this hellhole.
Oh my dear, we would not try. We would succeed. Did I say that out loud? I apologise.
Did I say that out loud?
Everybody's just looking at you like, okay. saying.
It's like we're not putting any weapons down until we get off this base.
I'm trying to think of what, like, because I know enough about what I must probably do is I want to say I'm not going to go out and say, I know exactly what you want, like that, but essentially I want to say something which in the Orion Syndicate culture would be considered like it's like the equivalent of I'll give you my word as long as you don't you have my word, but it's
excellent, because you have experience with the Orion culture. All right, so let's make this let's see what you can do here. I've got diplomacy as a focus.
Yep.
I think you should use probably insight, and I would go with command. Insight and command.
Yep.
I'm going to give you a success already.
What's your presence like? No, not as good as insight.
Yeah. No. I think insight is because this is knowledge that you have from your time with the Orions.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give you a success already. So the difficulty should be 3. I'm going to give you a difficulty of 2.
2, okay.
Because you know what you're doing.
Burn them all.
Okay, so...
Is it by a dice or by a success?
By a dice.
Determination is... If you spend determination, that buys you your successes.
No, I'm using momentum.
Momentum, that buys you a dice.
Buys a dice. Okay, cool.
What was that about the Orion Syndicate there? Oh, angry at the Orion Syndicate. Maybe we won't use that one.
No, I've taken that away.
Oh, okay, fine.
Yes, that was last week.
Yeah, no, that one is, now it's... Nothing is beyond we are. Let's see. 12, 16... So it's 3 successes.
Great, excellent.
3 successes.
Brilliant. So, okay, so you you basically give her your oath.
Yeah.
And essentially you tell her.
As long as you don't double cross me, you're fine.
And there's a kind of a pause from
It doesn't apply to you guys. Just so we're clear on that. That doesn't apply. It's my word, not your word.
So she barks. She waits a moment, then she barks an order at the Nausicans. And these 2 Nausicans nearly crap themselves. She shouts something again in an Orion sub-dialect that you're not entirely clear on. But literally they almost fall over, and then they put their weapons down on the deck and sort of step back. And she sort of comes out and she goes, "I'm holding you to your word." And so you go, "That's fine. So we've got enough problems going on here without you lot messing about. But play straight with us. All will be good." And she's, "What can we do?" Keep out of our way, probably is the best thing to...
Well, the thing would most probably be you head back to your quarters, but that's still kind of walk. As opposed
Plume might want to give them an inoculation as well, because although they are... Right, so what we'll do is we're going to stop there. So you've reached the shuttle deck. You've dealt with the Nausicans and the Orion. So she's an ally now. So she will do whatever you tell her to do within reason. Nothing weird. But she will cooperate.
So you just left the captain lying close to death and you ran off.
To be honest, given the fact he was obviously injured in the initial feedback thing, so there probably wasn't anything she could do. And she's an Orion. She's probably more worried about her own skin, frankly.
Yeah. I'm not surprised.
But the good news is that she will basically give you the Nausicans as muscle if you need them. So she said, she's taking you at your word, and she's impressed that you know enough about the culture to for what you said. So you've got an ally there for the moment. Well, who knows? But even if it's just for stuff like lugging Johansson about, because these Nausicans are certainly big and strong. Right, good guys, we'll call it there. Thank you very much again. I'm going to go into the loo quickly and pack up. You two feel free to disappear if you need to. And we'll sign off and see you next time, everyone. Thank you very much for playing and listening.